The Racing Pod on Off the Ball.
And you're welcome to episode 4 of the brand new Racing Pod on Off the Ball. John Duggan and Johnny Ward with you. We're delighted to be able to bring you this show every Friday, which will include analysis, race previews, tips, stories, interviews, a bit of crack as well. The first half of the pod each week will be free to air. The second part will be exclusively for members. So be sure to sign up by going to offtheball.com/join. You don't want to miss out on all of this info. Johnny Ward, we'll talk about form for the pod in a moment, but how is your form?
My form is good, JD. Yeah, I'm really hoping the racing goes ahead tomorrow. I see there's another inspection for Sandown, so they've been really unlucky in England with the weather at the moment, and all of this rearranging. Strangely, in Ireland, we've gotten away with it. So we've had virtuosity after virtuosity the last sort of few weekends, and I think the theme of this weekend is the amount of really, really short odds favourites in these top races. So I'm interested to see what our listeners and viewers think of it all. Do you get turned on, shall we say, by the hilly way when you have a horse who's going to be 1-7 or whatever, or do you find it a little bit meh because it's not competitive enough and maybe they could be taking on each other? But form is good. Yeah, form is good. You're dressed well today?
I'm dressed well. I'm going to a soccer writers awards do, so it's all sports that we embrace. As we know, we're both on Football Saturday, Johnny, so I'm looking forward to that. But Make Mine a Double J is our feature.
It is.
And the last time we were on a couple of weeks ago, you had Imagine who won at 100 to 30 on. I had Gabby's Cross who was second at 9-2. But my tip for members, Blue King Daru won at 4-1. So that's why you want to be signing up, folks, to get all the info. What are you doing tipping odds on shots? Come on, man.
Yeah, and he scrambled in. There's actually a three-way go at the top of the Irish field and apps table as well between three of us. We're kind of gone a long way clear of the field. So it's a pretty tricky time now at the moment. I have to get my tipping right.
What was your performance of the week the last week?
Performance of the week was actually Firefox in the maiden hurdle when at Punchtown, where at Fairyhouse on Saturday, where basically he beat a very well touted Willie Mullins horse, and Firefox was a horse who started off over 2.5 miles straight into a maiden hurdle. He's by walking the park, and Bective Stud would have invested an awful lot of money in Gordon Elliott's yard, and we kind of need these owners as well, because Noel Moran he's a dyed-in-the-wool Meath man, big into Meath's Gaelic games, and he's made a lot of money and he's investing it in local horses, and Firefox is a typically flashy walk in the park. But if they started him off over 2.5 miles and he ran well, he won this very, very well over 2 miles, and I'm wondering if he could get further, how good could he be? He's loads of ability, and I could have picked one of the many Grade 1 winners on the Sunday, but I don't know if the Grade 1 winners wowed me at Fairyhouse maybe as much as other years, whereas I think this horse is very exciting.
My performance of the week, Johnny, was Gavin Sheehan. He's from Dunmanway in Cork, and he went over to England to ride, and he rode That's All Right, to win I would call it the Hennessy. They always sponsor that race, the Newbury 3.25 mile chase. It's the same trip as the Cheltenham Gold Cup, and he just got this horse into a lovely rhythm. The ground, I think, was quite good, but he just had so much patience on this horse around the first circuit. Just was patient, kept him at the back, and then used his jumping to his advantage, and slowly by slowly reeled in every single horse. That's All Right, to beat Manor Mission. I thought for Gavin Sheehan, great performance, 16-1 winner of a horse that was running over shorter distances, but they felt he might stay. He did stay, 10 stone 7. Really good performance from Jamie Snowden, the trainer, to get That's All Right, ready. And sometimes we all think about the top jockeys like Jack Kennedy and Paul Townend over here, but there are jockeys from other places in Ireland that have gone over to England. Derek Fox is an example, Grand National winning jockey from Sligo, and Gavin Sheehan as well from Cork.
Absolutely, and I should just mention Mallow Mission was my tip in the race. John McConnell had gone, I think he had 180 runners without a winner. It's incredible considering the season that season and a half that he's had, and Mallow Mission did all bar win. He's done well with his horses on the all-weather since as well, so they're coming back in form. I thought Mallow Mission ran a blinder. He's been a bit of an unlucky horse. You remember Cheltenham obviously as well. I thought he was going to win for much of the race, but as you say, brilliant ride by Gavin, and these Saturdays with the jumps action back, they are just it's great to be alive to see these horses.
Fairyhouse, the ground looked like it was something out of a battle in Braveheart, to be honest. It was atrocious ground. Nothing to do with the course or the way they, I suppose, tend to the course, just the weather.
Well, if you thought that were bad, what about Clonmel? I mean, yesterday, where basically they were finishing walking and finishing second walking. The ground is that bad. It's been really bad. As I say, Ireland have done okay. We've had not that many cancellations, and we've done dogs sort of Wednesday and Friday, so our programme's okay, but it's attritional. I remember actually having a runner in the Porterstown not that long ago, a few years ago, and the trainer saying to me the ground was way too quick. It was good to firm
It's the handicap at Ferryhouse, yeah.
Yeah, it was won by the Flavin Yard actually with a 22-1 shot, which was great. Nice to see
Danny Mullins. Yeah.
Danny Mullins rode it. Danny's was just surpassed 500 winners as well. But you're just hoping now that racing will go ahead in these venues. Like Clonmel was borderline yesterday, but as I say, JD, they've been very unfortunate in Britain. Like I met Tom Gibney yesterday. Was yesterday the day before? The day before yesterday, I met him, and he'd come back from Haydock, and he was going to have a runner in Haydock, and there was no suggestion that the meeting was going to be called off. And he went over the night before, I think with connections, woke up, and the ground was like -3 or something. It was just called off. So like the complications for a trainer like that who's trying to, you know, mix it with the best, and you go over to Haydock, the racing's called off. He has to come back home. That's a day lost for him. So it's been very, very tricky for English racing. The other thing is as well, it's hard to predict the weather as well. So Sandown are basically saying we haven't gotten the rain we thought we would get, but now we could get a lot on Saturday morning. So fingers crossed.
Street Valley was the name of that horse.
Street Valley, yeah.
Flavin trained John Flavin, is it?
John Flavin is really thriving. He took over the license from his dad, and it's thriving down in Tremor, and it's great to see. Like that's a good pot as well.
So the Royal Bond went to the Gordon Elliott trained Farron Glory, Jack Kennedy. Really good ride from Jack, I felt. Produced him late. Thought he was a horse that might show a bit of improvement. Was it the strongest Royal Bond? Probably not. On Tubber, I don't know what happened with him. I know he's on your 10 to follow, Johnny, that we've given here, but might be more to come from Farron Glory, only the 6th run of his life.
Yeah, it was kind of one of these races where it didn't look a classic beforehand, and it certainly didn't look a classic now, but I'm always wary jump to conclusions because Gordon Elliott has an awful lot of firepower at the moment. I suppose the theme of the weekend for me was Jack Kennedy. Jack Kennedy, as you mentioned, JD, he's riding outstandingly well. He's had more injuries than about 100 normal people put together in their entire lives at the age of like 21. He's been decimated with injury, and he keeps getting up. And I think, you know, we've Conor Stonewalsh coming in and doing incredibly well already as a national hunt jockey. But Jack was straight into racing at the age of 16 from the pony circuit. Gordon nabbed him very early. He's so good. I think he's probably the best jockey in Ireland, but he just hasn't had the opportunity, he hasn't had the luck, taking on the likes of Townend, Mark Walsh and so on, and these really good riders, but he's getting a run of it now, and he's still very, very young, and I thought he was outstanding on this horse. For me, on Tubber was weak in the betting, but it did look like he could be done for pace, and I think he was. If I owned him, I'd be delighted going forward. I think he needs a trip and a fence. What
about then Tiopu, Jack Kennedy as well in the Hatton's Grace? I just felt in Perry Pass possibly wasn't as forward. Maybe the Willie Mullins horse is not as forward as they will be at the festivals later in the season. I think this horse needs 2 miles in Perry Pass. Drop him back and trip on good ground in a champion hurdle. I think he'd be right there.
I didn't get the disappointing in Perry Pass logic or sort of narrative after the race. He was 4-7 out to 4-5, which if you back an odds on shot that's that weak in the betting, you're definitely worried. It may mean nothing, but it usually does, and it may mean that he's a little bit fresh. I thought he was fresh in the race. Tiopu on his day when he has, as you say, nearly unraceable ground, he's an exceptionally good horse, and he's very good fresh. He's obviously good back form in this race. Beat Honeysuckle in the race. First horse to beat Honeysuckle. I think only 3 horses have won the last 9 renewals of this race, 8 or 9 renewals, which is mad. I thought it was a fascinating tactical battle, and for me, I'm like you. I thought in Perry Pass, you can't just guarantee just because Willie Mullins trains a horse that you throw him straight into a really good grade 1 on his return that he's going to be 100%. Willie's had more odds on shots beaten in the last couple of weeks than I can ever remember, and he's had like a lot of winners as well. But
I am Maximus, for example, in the Drinmore, 11-1 Irish Grand National
14-16. I tipped, let's be clear about it, my nap with Geno last weekend.
Didn't seem to pick up.
No, he just. I mean, I maybe that's as good as he is. I think
maybe he's had a few runs recently. I don't know.
He has. Maybe he wants dropping back in trips. He jumped and travelled brilliantly, found nothing. But like I am Maximus, who was still anomalously a novice, even though he won the Irish Grand National when we last saw him on his ratings. But like he was a mystery to me, that horse. Like I really fancied him at Leopardstown after his Irish debut, because to me he needed to go left-handed, and then he ran into Gentleman's Game, and I was perplexed that he was so well beaten. But he's probably a Gold Cup contender now. So when he won the Irish National, I thought he'd no chance going that way. He jumped violently out to his left on his Irish debut, and Jody McGarvey, who goes over and rides Janadil for the yard, and Willie is a few nice horses in England at the minute. I thought it was lovely to see him ride a winner like that, because he's a very, very quirky horse, and he gave him a great ride.
Okay, so last Monday evening, the great and the good of the racing industry attended the annual Horse Racing Ireland Awards at the Mansion House in Dublin. The Aidan O'Brien trained Auguste Rodin was named Horse of the Year, but in a way, the night was about three people. Jessica Harrington, who took home the contribution to the industry award, Davy Russell, who was honoured as the Irish Racing Hero, and Wesley Joyce, the recipient of the Flat Achievement Award. We'll talk about them one by one in a moment. But first, let's hear now from young Tipperary jockey Amy Jo Hayes, who won Rider of the Year in a public vote for her success on Redstone Well at Leopardstown back in July.
Yeah, Redstone Well. He was trained by Danny O'Sullivan down in Cork, owned by Nora and Richard Ahern, and just delighted that they believed in me and gave the opportunity to ride in him. And I've had 3 rides in him. I second in his first run, and I won 2 races after that. So the second race was obviously the Premier Handicap up in Leopardstown, and he ran his heart out that day and won.
And he ran from the front, so was it a case of just go and don't look behind?
Pretty much. He's a horse that likes to be prominent, and he dominated his own pace throughout, and anytime a horse got close to him in the closing finishes, he just struck on and went further ahead. So he had a lot of power under me that day, and I think he had a lot more to show and to give, but he did enough for the day and the day that was in it, so he got the job done.
You're a £7 claimer. I read that your grandfather bred West Tip, the 1986 Grand National winner.
Yeah, we've always had horses at home, and my grandfather Joe bred the Grand National winner of West Tip, and just like to live on the dream and see where it takes us.
And you went through the race programme. Was that beneficial for you?
It was, yeah. Just trying to get a nice few more rides and winners, and hopefully keep kicking and keep them coming along.
You're working with Andy Slattery a bit, and you're riding out with the other trainers as well, I'd say, are you?
Yeah, so I'm based with Andy Slattery the last 3 years. Just have to thank Andy, Willem and Brian for getting me going and getting me rides and winners and keep me level-headed, and hopefully keep it going, and can't thank them enough for where I am today.
What's the thrill like of riding a winner of a race when you're now on the track, a couple of years?
Just riding the race itself, the thrill is enough, but to ride a winner and to finish in front and to know there's horses behind you and you've done the job and done it in time and the speed and the fractions right, you just can't describe it. It's only after you ride a finish and ride a winner you realise what you've done, and it's just amazing. You just can't describe it.
What's the ambition then of the goal for 2024?
Hopefully just to keep getting more rides and more winners, and just to keep kicking and getting the better rides and better horses. I've had more winners last year than this year, but this year I had better winners, so it's just the way it goes. Just hopefully just keep it going and keep hopefully the future's bright.
Amy Jo Hayes there, well done to her on winning Ride of the Year. Now, the National Hunt Award was won by the Cork jockey Paul Townend, who won the Cheltenham Gold Cup on Galopin des Champs, the Champion Chase on Energyman, and the Irish Grand National on I Am Maximus. And I asked him to pick a favourite moment.
It's hard to single one out. I suppose every year a Gold Cup stands on its own, but with a lot of brilliant days, Irish Grand National, a lot of Grade 1 winners. So if we can do half of it next year, we'll have a good season.
I Am Maximus. I remember I was there at Ferryhouse in the day watching the race. Maybe just describe, because this horse, it wasn't straightforward. The first mile, what was going through your head in the first mile? Because you're out the back.
Yeah, the first couple of miles, to be honest. I suppose going out, we had a plan to go down the inside. He jumps left, so just to try and keep him straight. Big field, keep a couple of outside us, but that wasn't working out. And heading out in the second circuit, we just had to go to plan X, Y or Z at that stage, and let him go a little bit left, but he wasn't losing any ground, so we were still in contention, I thought, and I thought it was a huge performance from the horse, and he showed its class again last weekend, and winning a Grade 1, that if we got him around, that he'd have a huge chance, yeah.
When did you feel in the Irish National, you know what, I might have this actually?
Funnily, when we actually turned across the bottom, there was a lot of horses still in front of me, but we'd gone a good gallop on testing ground that I knew if I could keep them going, keep them jumping, that they weren't going to go much faster than me in front, and I had plenty of horse underneath me, so I was hopeful of picking up a bit of prize money there anyway, and it wasn't until we got a long way up the straight that I thought I might get it all.
Were you shouting, were you screaming, were you doing anything when you got to the front to 100 yards from the line?
No, not really. No, I wouldn't. There's lads shouting at horses, lads do different things to get them going forward, but it's not a habit of mine, so I stuck to my guns and what I'm used to. So no, look, when Brian Hayes actually jumped the second or third last and quickened up in Jevray, before that I thought I had a big chance. He went a little bit quicker and I thought, oh well, I might struggle to get him back, but no, my lad dug real deep.
Galopin des Champs, how did it feel when you rode him during the Gold Cup?
Similar for the first circuit. We were stuck in a bit of traffic. Everyone wanted to be on the inside in the fresh strip of ground, and I was in there, but I worked my way out. We were still in the race. I was amongst a couple of previous Cheltenham Gold Cup winners heading out in the last circuit. Again, they'd gone hard, and that made, you know, the only chance you have come from behind is when they go hard and they keep going. So yeah, we just got in a rhythm down the back. When we turned to the top of the hill, you know, there was half a dozen horses still in with a chance, and we were stalking our prey at that stage, and I was, you know, it got tight turning in, got tactical, a lot of good riding, but when I pulled him out and gave him a squeeze going to the second last and he lengthened, I knew we were in with a shout, and you never count your chickens till you cross the line in Cheltenham, but I knew when we landed at the back of the last that I had a real good chance.
A very visually impressive horse, Galopin des Champs. Maybe there's a theory out there at the moment that race left a mark on him and Brave Man's game. What do you see in terms of that analysis?
Maybe it has. The two of them have ran, the two of them have been defeated. But look, it's...
Like, how did he feel the last day?
I was disappointed. Drop back to the John Durkin trip was always going to probably... He'd been impressive in the year before. Throughout the race, obviously I wasn't getting a great feel off him. He visually wasn't impressive, and he underperformed, I thought. Isn't beaten that far by fast or slow. Tricky race, but I have full faith in Willie getting him back to his very best.
How did Stateman feel then, first time out?
Very well. Obviously won the Morgana for the second year. Stateman's a lovely horse. He's very straightforward. He seems to just turn up and win. His defeat has been to Constitution Hill, and that's no mean defeat. So yeah, he was very straightforward. Felt really well. Quick and smartly off the bend, and you know he sets the standard for 2 mile hurdlers this side of the water.
Well, is it a headache between him and Imperi Pass to choose one, do you think, at the moment?
Not until they meet. And you know, Imperial Pass unfortunately got beat the weekend, but I think he retains a lot of ability, and yeah, we're fortunate to have the two of them in our camp, and if we can keep the two of them sound, hopefully it will be a headache to decide between the two of them.
And Ergeman is out for the season, but El Fabiolo is a good sub.
A fair sub to call in, yeah. A huge season last season. Obviously he was very impressive in Cheltenham and twice as impressive in Punchestown. Likely enough raced horse, to be honest. His hurdle season didn't go probably to plan, and maybe he's reaping the benefits of that now. So yeah, can't wait to get him back started, and hopefully he can fill in for Energy.
Paul Townend there got a really exciting season ahead for him, and it was just great the other night, Johnny, that Jessica Harrington, who's been battling illness, and it was great to see her there in fine form. Just thinking of the career she's had, Moscow Flyer, 3 Gold Cups for Sizing John, on the flat as well. It was funny, the lads, Barry Geraghty and Robbie Power interviewed and talking about the bollocks that she gave you, and then half an hour later she'd be putting you up on a horse and nothing had happened. So just that old school way of training, and just a great eye for horse, and obviously came from that show jumping background and now training in Moon.
Yeah, like from a real racing family, and for me what was remarkable about her was that she turned her attention to the flat like well into her advanced years as a trainer. Like Moscow Flyer was 20 years ago. I remember that's when I got into racing. I absolutely loved that horse, and there was something about him, just the swagger, when Irish trained winners were a relative rarity at Cheltenham. And like, you know, we'll talk about the Tingle Creek, but the Tingle Creek when he ran against Desertib and Well Chief, if it's not my favourite race, it'll be well up there. And like Jessie will always be Moscow Flyer to me, but then to go training classic winners like so late on in her career. And you know, I spent one day in the yard this year, and it was the first time I'd seen her since I think she got the illness, and I was just wowed by her attitude, you know, and she's just like, I can't let this get me down, I have to keep going. And the yard was such a happy yard as well, and she's a national treasure, I really believe that.
Davy Russell as well came across as somebody who was loving life, and why wouldn't he be, given he's going and Dancing with the Stars?
Yeah, didn't see that one coming.
2 entry Grand Nationals at Cheltenham Gold Cup. I remember he rode a horse called Mansoni at Punchestown back in about 2007. It was last to first. It was absolute heavyweight.
Beautiful horse, man. Like,
yeah,
it's sad that we're missing all these lads of that golden generation, like Geraghty and Russell and Carberry and Walsh. But it is what it is, obviously.
But the story, in a way, Wesley Joyce. What can you say about a jockey from Moyross in Limerick, a disadvantaged area, who became a jockey, suffered life-threatening injuries in a fall at Galway last year? Just listen to this: a punctured lung, broken ribs, a broken shoulder, a fractured larynx. He returned this year to ride 11 winners on the flat. It's almost like something out of a movie.
Oh, like, without a doubt, the story of the year for me. You know, let it not be overstated how difficult it can be for kids who grow up in those types of areas. Coming from Moyross is not straightforward. But Wesley was on a horse at the age of 3, I think. The day he did his first winner back was in Mallow, and I just happened to be coming in with him and his mother, and she was with her partner, and I just said, will you pose for a photo with me? And he was just all smiles. Like, he was in such good form. He hadn't had a winner yet. I think he'd had a few sort of place runners. And I backed a horse of his that day. And I remember, like, I was trying to keep my composure because, like, I backed a winner at a decent price. I think it was like 5-1. Wesley rode it. It was his first winner back. And then he rode like a double, I think, at Navan when I was there the following Saturday. And just talking to people since, whatever about the amazing recovery he's made, he's actually a really, really good young rider. Like, he's really well regarded. And the smile that he has in his face, like, he's an absolute inspiration to everyone and a brilliant, brilliant prospect.
Well said, Johnny. Let's have our Make Man a Double J double to finish off this section. What is your pick for the weekend?
Okay, so nice price. Union Park, probably named after something in New York or whatever, but runs in the colours, the Barden colours, and the owner, Oliver Barden, will forever be associated with...
I don't know.
You don't know Donohue's pub in Dublin, where of course the Dubliners sang over the years. So he's invested in the Rothwell yard. But Philip Rothwell's form is unbelievable at the moment. Conor Stonewall's claiming 5. Big step up, JD, but I'm hopeful he can do it in the Foxrock handicap chase.
Each way double about 7-1 Union Park. I'm going for a horse called Chambard. Venetia Williams trains that in the Beecher chase under a low weight there tomorrow at Aintree. That is the 205 about 16-1. So Union Park about 7s and we also have Chambard about 16-1 each way double for McMahon Double J on the Racing Pod this week. This is the Racing Pod and Off the Ball. If you're listening to the free version of the podcast, we'll be leaving you here. But if you're looking for more, including our analysis of the big races at Cork, Navan, Aintree and Sandown this weekend, go to offtheball.com/join to subscribe and get the full podcast every Friday with all of our racing tips, insights and stories from the week's action.